Welcome to Fearless with Jason Whitlock. I am Jason Whitlock, your host. Thank you so much for joining me on this Thursday morning. We have a phenomenal show. This going to build momentum. This show is going to build momentum from yesterday's show. And I want you right now, if you've got a friend that cares anything about the National Football League, cares anything about football, cares anything about the conversation that's been going on about football and about the quarterback position, call them, text them, contact them right now. Hey, tune in to Whitlock. Whitlock is going deep today, and I am. I'm going to take the first hour of the show to unpack a conversation, to piggyback off the conversation we had yesterday about quarterback play, because I want to make sure everybody understands what I was unpacking yesterday, and I want to dig down even deeper on what I was trying to unpack yesterday. And I want to start by showing the graphic that went viral yesterday, the 19 quarterbacks that from 2018, let's put that up, from 2018, there's 19 quarterbacks that started at least 8 games, at least the half of the 16 games that were played that year, that averaged more than 250 passing yards. And this year, in 2025, there are 5 quarterbacks that are averaging 250 passing yards. There's been a lot of conversation about a comparison between 2025 and 2018. I can't remember, and I apologize for the person that tweeted out the information, the comparison. And they tweeted out a comparison like, hey, look, no one's going to throw for 5,000 yards, and look how many guys threw for 5,000 or 4,000 yards in 2018, and look how it's going to decline this year. Because they were showing the full statistics for 2018, there's 3 games left in this 17-game season. I looked at, the real analysis here is average passing yards per game, 250 being the line I would set, and 19 quarterbacks did that in 2018. Only 5 are on pace to do that here in 2025. It is clear that quarterback play is being degraded in the National Football League, and it's probably been degraded in college football, but you can see it clear as day in the National Football League. Yesterday, in a conversation I did solo and then a conversation I did with TJ Moe and Steve Kim, I talked about DEI and all the conversation about black quarterback and how there's pressure on coaches and organizations and football programs, even in college, to play black quarterbacks. And I've said, in order to do that, they've dumbed down the offenses. And they've leaned more into athletic quarterbacks. And some people, they're offended by that. What do you mean they dumbed down? Because they have. Everybody says that. No one just talks about the racial implications of that, which I don't really think they're racial implications. I think they're patriarchy versus matriarchy implications. I think there's 2 parents versus single parent versus baby mama culture implications. This is the patriarchy versus the matriarchy. I'm going to go a cut deeper today because I want to be heard in context. Dove Kleiman, I want to put up Dove Kleiman's tweet. And, Dove is a guy that is kind of what they call a SHIT poster. He's an aggregator that likes to put up stuff explosive. And when I first saw this yesterday, or maybe it was this morning, where Dove says, wild. Jason Whitlock blames the league's focus on DEI and black quarterback play for diminishing competition and merit in the NFL. In 2018, the NFL had 19 quarterbacks at blah, blah. He repeats what I say. And so when I first saw that, I was like, man, he's taking me out of context. And then when I thought about it more, it's like, well, no, he actually hasn't. He's repeated what I said. Is the adjective wild kind of irritates me. That puts a framework around it. But I actually think Dove is being fair. And it is a reflection of what I said, but it's not really, 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 really what I really mean in full context. And I'm going to unpack that full context. And then in the second hour of the show, I'm going to have a discussion with Shaun King, former Super Bowl quarterback. He's got a Super Bowl ring with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, quarterbacked in the NFL for a long time, led Tulane University to a 12-0 undefeated season as a college player. And Shaun's one of the best guys, one of the most honest guys talking about football. He's on JB's show 3 times a week, occasionally comes on our show. He'll be on our show today in the second hour of the show, reacting to and helping me unpack my thoughts or disagreeing with my thoughts, because maybe I don't have this all figured out, but it is a discussion that needs to be had, and we're going to have it here today in more significant detail. It's a fascinating discussion. I think tonight's really blockbuster football game between the Rams and the Seahawks kind of showcases what I'm talking about, and I will explain later. That's Matt Stafford versus Sam Darnold tonight at the quarterback position. But I'm going to get into it. First thing I need you to do is hit that 5-star rating if you're listening over Apple. The second thing, the reason why my mind is so sharp this week, the reason why I'm able to be a bit more provocative and go a bit deeper today is because, man, I got my new ghost bed sitting right outside this door. If you've never heard of a ghost bed, it's an amazing mattress that will help you sleep. It cools and heats according to your body temperature. It senses your body temperature and will either cool down to give you a more comfortable sleep or warm up to give you a more comfortable sleep. It's one of the best mattresses I've ever slept on, I've ever had anything to do with. They've jumped on board here with us at Fearless. And so if you've ever heard of being micro-tired, it's that feeling that hits when things slow down and your brain tells you to take a nap, but of course you don't have time, and on and on. This is because of your sleep quality. But you need to do what I've done, and that's check out Ghost Bed, the most incredible mattress you'll ever sleep on. It's an award-winning mattress, more than 60,000 glowing reviews. But the most important thing is, I'm telling you, it's going to enhance your sleep. This thing is incredible. I promise you, you'll lay down, take that first deep, relaxing breath, and melt into this bed. Every Ghost Bed comes with a 101-night sleep trial. If you don't like this Ghost Bed, you can send it back, return it for free, and get all of your money back. GhostBed is giving you their best deal of the year right now, plus an extra 10% off when you use my code FEARLESS at ghostbed.com/fearless. That's ghostbed.com/fearless. These prices are incredible. Don't miss it. That's ghostbed.com/fearless, promo code FEARLESS. Let's get into today's show. And I'm going to, I've already given you the framework, but I want to go even no. Let me start with the stats, some new stats that I want to unpack that are simple, easy to understand. And then I'm going to back up and go really, really big picture about why I think there's a problem and what is undermining black quarterbacks in the NFL. So I want to start by showing you the quarterbacks and the teams with the best record in the National Football League. These are all the teams that have won 10 or more games at this point into the NFL season. This is 14 games into the season. There's 3 weeks left. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 teams that have a record of 10-4 or better. Bo Nix and the Denver Broncos at 12-2 with an 81-point differential. If there's a tie in record, we let point differential serve as the tiebreaker. Sam Darnold, who's playing tonight in Seattle against the LA Rams. Seahawks 11-3, a plus 163 point differential. They're playing the Los Angeles Rams. Matthew Stafford 11-3, a plus 159 point differential. Drake May, New England Patriots, 11-3, plus 106 point differential. Josh Allen, Buffalo Bills, 10-4, plus 87. Trevor Lawrence, Jacksonville Jaguars, 10-4, plus 84. Brock Purdy / Mac Jones, San Francisco 49ers, 10-4, plus 51. Justin Herbert, Los Angeles Chargers, 10-4, plus 31. Caleb Williams, Chicago Bears, 10-4, plus 27. 8 of the top 9 teams in this league have white quarterbacks. 8 of the top 9. The season's not over. We don't know who's going to win the Super Bowl. Jordan Love could win the Super Bowl. Hey, Jordan Love, half white. Well, what about Lamar Jackson? You can't count them out. They're 7-7. Who knows what's going to go on? You really think Lamar Jackson and Baltimore this season are going to win the Super Bowl? It's not about who's going to win the Super Bowl. Jalen Hurts, aren't they 9-5? Well, they could win the Super Bowl. Jalen Hurts, 2-parent family, traditional type quarterback, but has some issues. Again, he's not well respected even on his own team. But this argument isn't about who can win the Super Bowl. Because the Super Bowl, some of that is luck. It's a one-and-done tournament. You can pull some upsets. You can get into the Super Bowl. This is about building an organization and a franchise that can win consistently and win at a level that keeps that head coach safe. That's every head coach's dream. They all want to be where Mike Tomlin has been for the past. Is Tomlin been with the Steelers now for 19 years? That's where they all want to be for nearly 2 decades. They want that kind of stability. They want to be able to say, hey, man, we didn't have a losing record for 20 straight years. That's how you keep your job, the way Mike Tomlin has kept his job. Winning 10, 11, 12, 13 games a year. That stability and consistency. And the argument that I'm making, this isn't a racial conversation. This is a conversation about culture and what type of values and what type of attitude are you bringing to a team? Are you bringing a patriarchal mindset to a team? Are you bringing a mindset of submission to a team and a coach and an organization? Or are you bringing a culture and a mindset of rebellion to an organization? It is hard to win or to do anything consistently when your mindset, your attitude, your mentality, your approach to life is to be in constant rebellion. If your brand is rebellion, if your brand is I submit to no one, I'm a rebel without a cause, if that's your brand, that you're a rebel without a cause, you can't build consistent winning around that brand. Who represents that better than anybody? It's Shedeur Sanders and his daddy. And all the conversation about Shedeur and how Kevin Stefanski hates Shedeur and Kevin Stefanski is trying to undermine Shedeur. And there's virtually no conversation about, is Shedeur willing to submit to Kevin Stefanski? Is he willing to go all in with the team? The reason why I talk about this stuff intimately is because when I started my college football career, and I hate to bring my mediocre, mid-major college football career into this, but it's just true. It shapes my worldview. I brought an attitude of rebellion and non-submission to the Ball State football program. And it didn't matter how talented I was or if I was better than some of the guys playing in front of me, the coaches, justifiably, I didn't realize this in real time, but justifiably. We're sitting there like, man, Whitlock's attitude of rebellion and his charismatic personality, well, that's a problem. And I played offensive line. If I had played quarterback, they would have really wanted nothing to do with me. But it's like, man, Whitlock is funny. He's smart. He's got this locker room lawyer, and he knows how to lawyer up some things. And so the coaches hated me and tried to do everything in their power for all 4 years, but particularly the first 2 years, just tried to beat the rebellion out of me. And it wasn't until I was an adult that I realized, like, oh man, if I had just embraced and submitted, man, I would have had a remarkable college football career if I had bought into the program. But again, I was someone that throughout my college years, you've listened to me say, like, I was the authority on Malcolm X. I was the authority on the Nation of Islam. I was the authority on Louis Farrakhan. I had a great mindset, and this is why as soon as I went into journalism, I had great success. I had the right mentality to be a journalist. Question authority at every turn. Question power and the government and whoever your sources were. It was a great mentality for a journalist. But for a football player, for a team, it was the absolute wrong mentality, and it undermined my college football career. And so when I look across at like what's going on, why in the year of the black quarterback, why is it being dominated by white quarterbacks? We started out the year with everyone talking about, man, there's going to be 16 NFL teams starting black quarterbacks. And, we're in the year of the black quarterback. Black quarterbacks have arisen and black boy magic. And we look up, and I think they have a 41% winning percentage. Black quarterbacks are 77, 109, and 2, a 41% winning percentage. No one wants to talk about this. We got the stats up for those of you that are just listening. Like, it's a totality of all the black quarterbacks that have started games and their overall record, 77, 109, and 2, 41%. This will not be discussed. Everybody, trust me, if black quarterbacks were dominating and winning games at 55, 60%, we'd be hearing all about it at ESPN. And we'd be hearing all about what great progress it was, and there's a whole black takeover of the quarterback position, and they're dominating everything in the National Football League. But since they're not, and since the best teams in the NFL at this point in the season are being led by white quarterbacks, no one has a word to say. And Jason Whitlock, how dare you talk about this, you Uncle Tom sellout? I'm talking about it because I want black people to understand the consequences of a rebellious mentality. This is something I struggle with. This is something that serves me as a journalist very well. The reason I can do this show and consistently come up with a point of view and angle that no one else can is because of my journalistic mentality, my skepticism, my cynicism, my questioning of authority at every turn. But it undermines me in my personal life. It's something I have to fight in my spiritual life. I want this, what I'm doing the past 2 days, and particularly today, people are going to be upset. They'll reject it. This is why I don't listen to that Uncle Tom Whitlock. And I want you to hear what I'm really doing. I'm trying to explain to you, black people, there are consequences, negative consequences to this brand of rebellion, this culture of rebellion. I'm going to get biblical. This refusal to submit. I want to reference you all. There's a very popular minister named Philip Anthony Mitchell, young black guy out of Atlanta. He's leading a church, 2819 Church in Atlanta. Right now, just keeping it real, keeping it transparent. He's my favorite minister going. No offense to anybody else. I could sit here and reference a bunch of other ministers that I think are great, but I fall asleep 50, 60% of the nights listening to Philip Anthony Mitchell sermons. And I just listening to him on a loop. The YouTube just takes me to the next one, the next one, the next one. I wake up to pee and Philip Anthony Mitchell's going, and then I fall back to sleep to Philip Anthony Mitchell, and I wake up and I'm listening to Philip Anthony Mitchell. This guy is tremendous. And, he may stray off course at some point, but this young dude is killing it. And do you guys remember, had to be 6 months ago or so, Philip Anthony Mitchell gave a sermon on submission to authority. He gave a sermon talked about I think he grew up in New York and talked about being stopped by police and that, hey, he needed to submit to their authority because that's what's biblical. Give Caesar what he's owed and, submit to his authority, blah, blah, blah. I'll just play a clip just to remind you. Many of you, I'm sure, probably remember this controversy. But he gave this sermon to basically, a predominantly black, massive congregation in Atlanta. And they acted like it was the most controversial thing ever said. Let's play a little excerpt of that.
Stop blaming white cops for the killing of black kids. Instead, teach your black children to be obedient towards authority. And I don't care if most of y'all are black. You need to teach your children to obey authority. We need to teach our sons and daughters to obey authority. We need to teach our children to not fight against authority, not fight against cops, not rebel. Be model citizens. Stop being rebellious towards authority. Be submitted to laws and ordinances. Watch. The Lord said, give back to Caesar what belongs to him. That is, be submitted to governmental authority. You know why you're looking at me like that? Because you don't read. And an Italian cop drove right by me, and I locked eyes with the cop, and we stared at each other, and he drove by. And in that moment, I hear the voice of my mom and my father. Son, obey authority. In that moment, with that Glock pressed to my head, I got to make a decision. Either my ego is going to be strong, God, or my submission to authority is going to be stronger than my ego.
That's a young black minister speaking to a predominantly black congregation, teaching them straight from the Bible. The man has spent, I think, since 2023, going through the book of Matthew. He's teaching straight from the Bible. His congregation seems to be eating it up, but he faced so much blowback, instantaneous blowback, from other black Christians, from other black church leaders, from podcasters to everything, that he had to almost instantly issue an apology. The reason why that video we just played is fuzzy and grainy and not, in full color and just crisp and clear is because his church had to delete any example of this, any excerpt or this entire sermon from the internet. And so we had to get it from someplace else. There are no clear video of this anymore. That's how dangerous and negative and controversial and just repulsive this was to black Christians. You could take that sermon that he gave and play it in any white church in America virtually, and there would be no rebuke. There would be no demand of an apology. This is how much control the culture is by this brand of rebellion. And how dare you tell black people to get in line with biblical authority, a biblical worldview, biblical submission. How dare a black minister preach that? He had to, let me read from the apology he had to make. In light of statements I made during an 8 a.m. gathering on Sunday, April 13th, I want to take a moment to pause and acknowledge the impact of what was said. While not my intention, I recognize I caused harm, and for that I sincerely apologize. I believe that the passage I preached on presents us with an opportunity to examine our relationship with governments and authoritative figures who we may personally oppose yet have to comply with. Without a doubt, I understand the framing. I used about black children and their relationship with the police was and is harmful. I know that black people have been killed by the police, and when being both compliant and non-compliant. I sought to illustrate this tension from my own lived experience via a personal testimony. I acknowledge that my framing of the encounter was not helpful and should have been done differently and with more nuance. I'm not. It goes on and on and on from there. The brand of black people: don't submit, question all authority. That's what we believe, and that's what we require. You can't be black if you suggest. No, submission is the way. And trust me, I hear the critics of my own that say, hey, Whitlock struggles to submit. Whitlock won't submit. Whitlock needs a church home or a better church. He's got to submit to some minister. I hear it and get it all. It's all fair criticism. It's all fair criticism. There's a price to pay for non-submission. And so when we look out and see, like, why are black quarterbacks struggling in the NFL in the year of the black quarterback? Is it because of racism? Or is it because we have burdened black young people with the mindset that if they submit to any authority, particularly white authority, because we damn sure know they won't submit to black authority. That's out of the question. But submit to any authority, you're now a sellout. You're now a coon and an Uncle Tom. You're now kicked out of black culture. You wonder why teams are reluctant, coaches are reluctant or struggle to reach a black quarterback? A head coach that needs to be in partnership with his quarterback? And the black quarterback brings an attitude of non-compliance, of I can't submit, I can't fall under your discipleship. That would be anti-black. And this submission issue, talk to any black minister. They have to tiptoe around the issue of submission even when they're talking to their female congregants who are in marriages, when they're trying to counsel them on marriage and their role with their husbands and their role in their families. You want to break up a black church, have a black minister talk about black women needing to submit to their husbands. You want to clear out a congregation and clear out a church, do that. This matriarchal, rebellious culture and mindset that makes it hard. And this is why all of these quarterbacks sit around and talk, well, I never had a black coach who could relate to me. And that's so the black coach and the black quarterback can sit around and talk about how, man, I ain't submitting to no white man. I'm not submitting to this organization. I can't cooperate with ownership. I got to do things to show how black I am and be rebellious. And then that black quarterback will not submit either to that black quarterback coach. because submission is no part of our brand. And then so when we look out and see white kids who had fathers in the home, and no one, if they buy all into whatever's going on with the head coach in the program, no one's calling them an Uncle Tom, a coon, a sellout. No one is kicking them out of the white race. They're free to submit. They're free to partner with the head coach and buy into his entire approach and be a servant to his approach. Tom Brady served Bill Belichick and won 6 Super Bowls with him. They're free to do that. They're free to follow the Bible. These are the conversations that are forbidden. All that anyone wants to talk about is how racist and unfair Kevin Stefanski is. Or whatever white coach is coaching some black quarterback that hasn't won the Super Bowl yet. All we do is say, well, it's got to be the white man's fault. He's the ultimate authority. The young quarterback has no responsibility to buy into what the head coach is doing. The head coach must buy into what the black quarterback is doing. And if the black quarterback wants to dress up like a rap star, or if the black quarterback wants to grow his hair, grab a picture of Cam Newton and grab one where he's got the scarf around his head and he's buying into all this feminine stuff. The head coach has to get on board with that. The whole homoerotic, I'm metrosexual, I might be gay. You have to embrace that and bring that into your locker room. And anybody like me that actually wanted to see Cam Newton have the ultimate success, win a Super Bowl, be a franchise quarterback, be a guy that you could consistently win with, who would sit on TV and say, Cam, man, take that bonnet off. That's not going to play in the locker room. This is football. You can't lead a football team dressed up like Mary Poppins. And I know Cam hates me because I say this. But Cam, I said it then, I'm saying it now out of love. Out of I want to see you be successful. This won't work. You're doing too much. If you want to dress up like Mary Poppins, do it in retirement. This is how you run yourself out of the league and sit up on a couch somewhere with Jamel Hill talking about, man, they don't treat me like Tom Brady and Tony Romo. Did you carry yourself like Tom Brady and Tony Romo? I saw JB and Shaun King talking yesterday, and they were talking about how I think it was JB or Shaun, one or the other basically said, look, man, if you don't hate your coach, it's probably because he's not telling you anything. He's not challenging you. I went days, months, some years, really bothered by my father. Really bothered. Because it seemed all he had was complaints. And then I went problems with my coaches in college because it seemed like all they had were complaints. And then I got old enough to realize they were complaining because they actually cared about me and wanted the best for me. And it's illegal, basically, in popular media to care about these black quarterbacks or black athletes and want the best for them and to offer them constructive criticism. How many underachievements and failures do we have to have? It's the year of the black quarterback, and ain't none of them peeing a drop. White boys dominating everywhere. But none of them have done anything wrong, and Jason Whitlock complaining and pointing out hey, man, it's the year of the black quarterback, and Bo Nix is winning everything. Matt Stafford's going to be MVP. Josh Allen will probably be MVP runner-up if he's not MVP. Drake May looks like the best young quarterback we got in the league. You point, oh, and so they'll be sitting around, waiting, hoping and praying that C.J. Stroud or Lamar Jackson go on a playoff run, and they can say, "See, we won the Super Bowl. We can ignore the regular season." I want to play you a clip, and I have not given up. Haven't given up on any of these young guys, but I want to play you this clip of Cam Ward, and he's leading like what are they? They won 2 games, 3 games all this season. 2 games all season. They're one of the worst teams in the NFL. And Cam Ward, well-intentioned, talented guy, like him, but he's bought into this whole rebellion thing. And he doesn't even know it. He doesn't think he's being rebellious. But he did a little press conference or spoke at a press conference and talked about how he wants to be involved in the hiring of the new coach and the kind of influence he wants over the new coach. I'm going to play the clip, and I'm going to tell you why I think he's wrong here. But play the clip.
I want to meet all of them. Every coach who's going to get the opportunity to come here, I want to meet them, have conversations throughout the whole process with them, because that's someone that I'm going to be here with, for that time. So we got to just continue to, me being around and being open to no matter whoever we try to hire, because I know at the end of the day, who we do hire is going to be the right fit for us, whether it's a defensive person or offensive person. They're going to make sure that every person, in the right place and make sure that every person is set up for success.
Have you had conversations already with Mike and Chad about wanting to be involved with this, or maybe what some of the qualities you might want?
Yeah, I've had conversations with them about wanting to be involved. They know how much I want to be involved, and then especially just not even with the scheme part of it, just as the head coach, who he is on an everyday basis, and then we'll get into the scheme, what I know I'm good at, what I want to do, what he thinks will also help me.
So everything he said there it's not terrible. He just doesn't need to say it publicly. He's done this because he's been convinced through black culture that player empowerment and public player empowerment is the key to being a successful black athlete. I need to mimic my inner LeBron James. I must show how empowered I am and how much influence I have over the organization. So I must state publicly things that my agent or I could say privately. Because I have to show everybody I'm a rebel. I'm the leader here. I'm empowered here. And so the things he's talking about, if he wanted to express privately to ownership, privately to the management, no problem. That's what an agent is for. That's what private conversations are for. But this whole public deal is playing to the cameras and playing to a brand. Hey, this is what I'm supposed to do. I'm a black quarterback, and I'm empowered, and I was the number 1 pick, and I must show how influential I am. And he's not aware of hey, man, there's 52 other guys in the locker room that are sitting there like, Cam Ward, man, has he watched the tape of himself and what's gone on this year? He's out here talking like he's Tom Brady in year 10 coming off of MVP and 3 Super Bowls under his belt. He wants to be involved. He wants to do this. He wants to do that. It's not landing well with his teammates. Trust me. Maybe there's some of them that is landing well, but we've already had the incident where there's people like he said some things about on a flight back and, we ain't enjoying this moral victory or whatever, or this victory. I think they won the game or whatever. And he's already had some teammates kind of chirp back about cracking jokes about, hey, man, ignore Cam. Let's enjoy this victory. What was it? what's it? Walk tall but carry a big stick, or carry a big stick but don't. Roosevelt. What's the saying? Help me out here. I forget. Roosevelt. One of the Roosevelts said something that walk tall, carry a big stick, or carry. I don't know. See, that's what sucks about getting old. You forget all the things. Speak softly and carry a big stick. There we go. Thank you. Which Roosevelt was that? Was that Teddy Roosevelt? Or Theodore Roosevelt? Yeah. Speak softly and carry a big stick. Hadn't figured that out yet. Hasn't been discipled in that. Probably isn't allowed to even think that way because he's black. Because black people must talk loudly and can't back it up. I'm going to, obviously, at some point I was going to connect this to Shedeur Sanders because he epitomizes everything that's wrong with the quarterback mindset. He is the ultimate rebel without a cause. He's out here mimicking his father, who black culture just loves. His father is the embodiment of the culture, the non-submissive culture that I'm talking about, the rebellious culture, rebel without a cause culture that I'm talking about. His father had so much talent at the cornerback position. He didn't have to listen to anybody. He could flout authority. He could tell the man F himself. He could be in constant conflict with authority. He didn't need to be a team player. And he gets to pretend and make up history, and everybody now is supposed to believe Deion was the ultimate leader with the Cowboys and the 49ers and blah, blah, blah. That's all garbage. Deion was a great talent that sat out on an island and covered half the field. But in terms of leadership and setting an example, Deion was always a disaster. And you couldn't take Deion's alleged leadership style and apply it to the quarterback position, but that's exactly what has happened with his son. His son is a marginal NFL talent that carries himself like he's Deion Sanders, the ultimate generational talent at his position. That is not Shedeur Sanders. Deion represents the culture. Deion, rapper, gold chains, radically materialistic. Only thing Deion didn't get that the rappers got is he doesn't cuss. Everything else about Deion is a perfect reflection of a toxic, matriarchal, emotional culture that will not submit to anything, that looks at submission as the ultimate treason. Now just think, Christianity is all about submission and surrender. And Deion thinks of himself as some sort of Christian. But submission, surrender to authority? No, not in his playbook, not in his son's playbook. His son, I just want to tell you what's such a perfect reflection. His son is coming off of one of the worst performances that we've seen this year. 3 interceptions, a fumble that got overturned. It was an interception. His son right now, did we get that graphic that I found over social media about some expected EPA? It was something that showed Shedeur was the worst quarterback in the league. I think we got it. It was hard for me to understand. I put it in our text thread. It was hard for me to understand, but it showed like text thread, not Twitter, on our text thread, the fearless text thread. It was hard for me to understand, but it just clearly showed like, man, there it is. Shedeur is the worst quarterback in the National Football League. That when he gets out of the pocket and expected to make plays, he can't do it. He's the worst at it. Expected points added. Yeah, that's what EPA stands for. He can't do it. The guy, despite everything that's being said over social media and all over ESPN and on everybody's podcast, Shedeur Sanders is performing horrendously as the Browns starting quarterback. Everybody's making, he didn't get first team reps. Oh, his offensive line is trash. Oh, the receivers are no good. Oh, who's the guy? Jerry Jeudy dropped the ball and it got intercepted. There's an excuse for everything. And Shedeur, showing no leadership ability, has never come to the podium and say, hey, it's all my fault. It's me. Hey, no, Jerry Jeudy didn't do anything wrong. That happens. I could have placed the ball better. No leadership from Shedeur. And here's another example of Shedeur mirroring his father's arrogance. And just humility is the source of success. Humility, just like surrender and submission, they go hand in hand on a Christian walk. Humility and submission, they go hand in hand. Shedeur has no willingness to submit and no humility. It's a nightmare scenario, and he represents what's wrong and why these quarterbacks aren't having the kind of success that they should, because even the ones that have the proper attitude or attempt to have the proper attitude, they get so much pushback. Take Dak Prescott, who's half white, but seen as a black quarterback. Dak does everything right. Everything right. As a leader, but he gets trashed. And he's not, as Ryan Clark would say, he's not authentically black. Shedeur is authentically black because he's seen as rebellious. But here is Shedeur just gets embarrassed on Sunday against the Bears. And just like his daddy, he's like, oh, man, this is the worst it's going to get. You better get me now. Play the Shedeur clip.
I'm just excited that I'm able to get everybody's best. I'm excited about that. That makes me feel proud. That I have that. I'm just getting in the league and my feet settled and everything. So I get excited, knowing I'm able to face those challenges, because you gotta understand this year right here, this the worst it's gonna be. You know what I'm saying? So it's like this the foundation. This is where I'm building from. This is where I'm understanding different things. This is where everything's translating for me. So I'm excited about it. I'm extremely excited about it because I know we're gonna get them. I know we're gonna get them eventually.
No humility. Anybody remember Deion going 4-8 his first year? Oh, this is the worst it's going to be. You better get me now because it'll never be like this. Oh, no humility. All arrogance is the key. Confidence in Deion's mind is the key. That's what fuels success. That completely contradicts the Bible. Let's play the Deion Sanders clip.
I don't say stuff just to say it for a click, contrary to what some may say. But I keep receipts. But I'm serious. I analyze and I understand what we're up against and what we have and what we need. One thing that I could say honestly and candidly, you better get me right now. This is the worst we're going to be. You better get me right now.
I'm not sure. I think that is Deion right after the Oregon game. If it's not, he said virtually the same thing after the Oregon game. And that the Oregon game was in his first season, and Dan Lanning and them beat the brakes off him. And remember, Skip Bayless and all these people complained about, I can't believe Dan Lanning's pregame speech. It was racist or disrespectful. It's because Dan Lanning said, hey, man, we ain't here for clicks. We about to get in these licks is basically what he said, and they went out and did it. And they were, Dan Lanning, what he did was racist or that was disrespectful to Deion. Getting his team hyped up by saying they're here for clicks and we here to get in these licks, or however he said it. I don't think he said the licks thing. That's what I just added to it. But Deion got the brakes beat off of him by Oregon and told everybody and said all that season when they went 4-8, you better get him in now because it'll never be like this again. They went 3-9 last year in his third year. I thought you said it would never be like this again. I thought you said you better get your licks in now. No humility. It's unbiblical. And all of these athletes, and again, these are some good young people, many of them. They come into the league, and then there's all of this pressure from social media and from all the influencers in broadcasting positions on TV. You got to be black. You got to be black. You got to be authentically black. You got to wear braids. You got to wear cornrows. You can't submit. You can't go all in with a coaching staff and a head coach. You can't be humble. If you do those things, you're not authentically black, and we will distance ourselves from you, smear you, call you a cornball, and that's how you end up folding like RG3. RG3, good kid. Good kid. But all the pressure got to RG3. RG3 comes from a military family, military dad. Good kid. But all the pressure from the culture buried RG3, caused him to come out of care. He's still struggling. What is going on with black quarterbacks is the most obvious thing. It's unfortunate that it can't be talked about, but it needs to be talked about. They bring a burden and a distraction with them that if I were a head coach, it's like, oh, man, if I draft this guy, I got Ryan Clark and Stephen A. Smith and Shannon Sharp and all these other clowns second-guessing and micromanaging every decision that I make and can't wait to call me racist. And then I got a player that's listening to this, my quarterback, the guy that I'm supposed to be in partnership, that's listening to all these people frame up every decision I make in these drastic racial terms. They're undermining my relationship with my quarterback. And if I draft Drake May, I get none of that. I don't have to sit around on tiptoe around. I can tell Drake May exactly what I want. I can demand that Drake May submit. If I'm Kevin O'Connell and I'm the Minnesota Vikings coach and I want to say out loud, hey, man, I didn't like J.J. McCarthy during the gritty dancing into the end zone. Because J.J. McCarthy's white, I can air him out publicly about things I do and don't like. But if he were a black quarterback, I would be subjecting myself to Ryan Clark and other people hopping on TV and talking, man, he don't know how to relate to a black quarterback. He's racist. And you wonder why it's hard to build around, because you're always walking on eggshells. And they're not free to submit and put all their faith in the head coach. I've done this to myself. I'm trying to pass on the mistakes from my life, the brief time I played football all the way up to age 23. Everything that I've seen covering professional sports and football. I've seen these athletes, stupid and dumb just like I was, unwilling to submit to their coaches, being worried about how they're perceived by outside forces rather than the forces inside the locker room that are in control of your purse strings and your success. Those are the people you should be thinking about, and they should be free to think about. And that is what the white athlete is free to do. We put the chains on the black athletes, and then we wonder why they don't excel and achieve at the level we think that they should. We've poisoned them with a toxic mindset and culture. And you can sit around and say, Whitlock don't know what he's talking about, or, oh, that's some BS. Whitlock's a sellout. Continue to say it. The results are everywhere. If we went outside of football and sports in the quarterback position, this lack of willingness to humble yourself and submit, the failures are everywhere, all across academics, all across incarceration rates and criminal rates. It's everywhere. This matriarchal culture, and I call it matriarchal because, again, when you have what women are in constant rebellion to male authority. I'm not saying all of them, but the entire feminist movement is driven by women in rebellion to male authority. And that's not a left-wing, right-wing deal, because there's a lot of right-wing feminists. A lot. Women, many of them, feel like, man, I got a bad deal. I wish I had been born a man. Then I could go get a job and I could blah, blah. Women run around in fear because, they're weaker than men. You ever see these videos about what women do when they stay in a hotel or they're home alone? Things that men never think about. Man, I don't want to tell on myself, but, I'm sitting in here with guns and like, yeah, I wish somebody would come up in here. That's not what a woman's thinking. Not what she's thinking. She's scared. And that's why she needs a man. And she's pissed off. She wishes she were a man. So when your culture is feminine, when your culture takes its personality from women and adopts that mindset of fear and rebellion towards male authority, when you're sitting on couches talking with Jamel Hill and Joy Taylor and making sure that every word that comes out of your mouth increases the chances. I apologize for saying it. I know this irritates some of you, but sometimes I get fired up and I just got to keep it real. But when every word comes out of your mouth is intended to make her moist, you've surrendered to her. You haven't surrendered to Jesus Christ. You've surrendered to her. And you're headed for destruction. You're headed off a cliff. And look, there's a bunch of dudes that believe exactly what I'm saying. But they're like, oh man, if my wife know I think that way or heard me think that way, man, I might not get any until our anniversary date or my birthday. This is what men really think. And it's not worth the hassle of crossing her. So I've unpacked a lot. I'm hoping that Shaun King is available and ready to go. Oh, he is? He's good? All right, well, before we get to Shaun King, let me thank our sponsors from Preborn. You guys obviously know how I feel about Preborn. We talk about them virtually every day because they are our ride or die. They are with us on this fearless mission. Preborn is an organization that helps fight the abortion industry, goes toe-to-toe with the abortion industry. They provide expectant mothers who are considering an abortion, they provide them an ultrasound. They do that because when a woman hears that baby's heartbeat, when the woman sees an image of that baby in the womb, she then turns twice as likely to choose life and turn away from the possibility of aborting that child. That's when Preborn steps in and steps up and supports that woman and child for up to 2 years. Preborn is an amazing organization. I have personally vetted. Dan Steiner, the founder of Preborn. I've had him in my house. We've had him to events. We've had him everywhere. I brought him on this show several times because I wanted to make sure when we send our money in, we're sending it to an organization that's going to spend it on exactly what they say they do. Each ultrasound costs $28. That's where our money goes. It pays for ultrasounds. 5 ultrasounds, $140. Whatever your best gift is, and I've been saying this throughout December, this applies every month, but it really applies this month. What are you getting Jesus Christ for Christmas? I got the perfect gift, and he better be on your Christmas list. The perfect gift is a donation to Preborn. Save a baby's life today by dialing pound 250, say the keyword baby. That's pound 250, the keyword baby, or give the way that I prefer to give at preborn.com/fearless. That's preborn.com/fearless. I'm going to take a break just to catch my breath, grab a drink. Shaun King is ready to go. Shaun, give me 1 minute. We'll be right back. Next.
I'm 56, acting like I'm 30. Worship me like an idol, cause I'm worthy. Drop rose for snow, hoes wasn't pretty. Overplaying Travis Hunter did him dirty. Shedeur crying daddy, why they hurt me? Setting sack record sight, getting blurry. Players decommitting, coaches start to scurry. Run into the transfer portal in a hurry. Your favorite black coach, I do no wrong. Get them wins up, or I won't be here for long. Call them ghetto rappers to get us in the zone.
Who ready?
I'm ready, now play my theme song. If you see me, then you know it's about a bug. Not about my players, I don't give a. I'm the big dog, should do my little pug. Diamonds on his wrist, Sandy, hold it up. When I holler Pee-wee, that mean I suck. Manipulate my players, then I get them stuck. Take the cornerback for Colorado Buffs.
Do you believe that?
Nope, we ran out of love.
As the NFL turns, starring quarterbacks Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, with special appearances from Commissioner Roger Goodell and coaches Andy Reid, Mike Tomlin, and the Harbaughs. Brought to you by the global elites.
All right, welcome back. Shaun, give me 30 more seconds. I want to take care of some more business so I don't have to interrupt the flow of our conversation because it's very important. I want to remind you all, for those of you that got young college kids that are thinking about where they're going to go to college, and you have discipled them in a biblical worldview, a Christian worldview, and you want to make sure you send them to a college where everything you've invested in them, implanted in them, doesn't get stripped out. You need a guide, you need a source for where you can find colleges and universities that support your biblical worldview. The Center for Academic Faithfulness has that covered for you. They have a guide, a resource that will help you sort through their college choices. It's called ChristianCollegeGuide.com. You can find out what the faith life is like on these colleges, is what the faith life is like on these college campuses, the acceptance rates, the tuition cost, all of that, and making sure that the spiritual life, what its campus policies are, what its faith commitments are, all of that's matched up. Here's what it costs. Here's what it's like for those of you of faith on the college campus, and it's all free. All you have to do is go to ChristianCollegeGuide.com, ChristianCollegeGuide.com. There's more than 250 colleges and universities. It's going to rate everything from spiritual life to faith commitments, the whole deal, campus policies, ChristianCollegeGuide.com. Use that as your resource to help your kids find out where they should be going to college that won't strip out everything you imparted to your child. All right, let's get back to the show. Shaun King, I don't know how much of my rant here you got to hear, and so do I
Quite
need
a bit.
Quite a bit. Oh, so maybe I don't need to restate it. Do you know where you want to hop in, or push back, maybe agree? Do you know where you want to start?
I think the visual representation, Public Enemy #1 and police bars for Shedeur and Coach Deion is extremely unfair, Jason. As much as we may disagree,
That's Public Enemy, the rappers. They're iconic rappers. Rebels without a cause. What are we doing? I can't do that.
You have prison bars, and you've got Public Enemy number
Blame
one.
Chuck D and Flavor Flav.
There are a lot of other entities in our communities that are more deadly and dangerous to people than Shedeur and Coach Prime.
You could say the same thing about Chuck D and Flavor Flav, right? More entities, far more dangerous than Chuck D and Flavor Flav.
To me, though, they were closer to trying to push messaging about some of the things that were going on in the Black community that they didn't think the rest of the world understood or knew about. They were trying to find a legal way out of their current situation. It's a little different, Jay. It's a little different.
I'm analogizing Deion and
But
Shedeur
you're analogizing with
to
Public
Chuck
Enemy
D and
number one
Flavor Flav.
with a sniper scope with a target on it with jail cell bars. It's a little extreme. Yes, it's a little extreme.
It's an analogy about an iconic rap cover album.
The visual representation is a little extreme.
So that's where you wanted to start. All right.
Well, that's the first thing I saw when I came on. Because I rock with you because you're one of the few people that look like me that's not afraid to give your own opinion and stand on what you believe in, even if it goes against the grain. And I think a lot of people agree with you, just they're afraid to be isolated or not accepted in their current circle. But this was a bridge that it's a bridge that we probably shouldn't cross. The representation of this, to me, is not realistically connected to these two young men.
Hold for once. You're telling me that Deion and Shedeur don't represent hip-hop culture?
They're not the face of it.
In the sports world, you're telling me these guys they're not reflective. When Deion's got every rapper come on the Colorado sideline performing in the locker room after games, you telling me Deion calls himself Coach Prime. Who popularized grown men calling themselves nicknames more than hip-hop did?
But what they did, Jason, was they took the most powerful entity in America and utilized it to market themselves. If we're being honest, the Black rap hip-hop culture has permeated every part of America. I mean, go on TikTok. It's white moms with young white daughters doing the dances. And, I don't even know if athletes are who this generation of young Americans idolize. They idolize the Drewskis, the Casanats, the Ice Speed. So all they did was look at what the algorithm says works. And we're going to use this to build post-Deion playing career brand. And it's focused on that energy. But they didn't create it. They just took what was working and said, we're going to use it to bring some more money into the Sanders family. So that's why I try not to target them as like, they're the reason that Jackson Dart is wearing diamond necklaces or that J.J. McCarthy is doing the dance as he runs. It's not. It's rap. Hip-hop took over. They had like a 10, 15-year stretch where they kind of raised a whole decade of Americans. In every sector of this country, people do things that emulate that culture.
On that, we agree. We won't settle. I'll think and marinate on your criticism of my Public Enemy analogy. But where we agree is that hip-hop has had incredible influence over athletes and young people in general. And for Black athletes, my argument is like, hey, man, football, particularly at the quarterback position, but football in general, because of its military-like structure, it's about submission. It's about submitting to the head coach, and the team is greater than yourself. And hip-hop is about individuality and being rebellious to authority. And when I look at, put the graphic up of the 9 quarterbacks with the best record right now, and it's 8 white guys in a row with the best records, best point differential, and we're in the year of the black quarterback, where 16 black quarterbacks at the beginning of the season were going to start, and the thing is still getting dominated by white guys. And my argument is because, like, white guys are free to submit. Black guys have all this pressure to be rebellious, mimic hip-hop culture, and that's why there's a bit of a struggle, and that's what I'm saying is going to be a part of Shedeur's struggle. He had no interest in submitting to Kevin Stefanski, and the whole argument has been Kevin Stefanski hates him. There's been no discussion like, I wonder if Shedeur will get on board with what Kevin Stefanski wants to do, and it wouldn't surprise me because he exists in a world where there's all this pressure on young black athletes to bring that hip-hop mentality into football.
I would say the evaluations are unequal. Jackson Dart is applauded for having swag.
Not by me.
But by most of the sports media. He's applauded for being cool, wearing diamond chains. Lamar Jackson's criticized for having a grill. But what's really happened is, if you go back to my draft class in 99, and listen, there were some icons that came before me. Your Doug Williams, your Randall Cunningham, your Shaq Harris, your Warren Moon. But they were isolated elite talents. The league really was infiltrated with black quarterbacks in 99. Me, Donovan McNabb, Achilles Smith, Dante Culpepper, Aaron Brooks, Michael Bishop, we all came into the league at the same time. We had to submit or you wouldn't play. So we couldn't have our own personality. And then what happened was the college game started producing one type of quarterback. So the NFL didn't change because they wanted to. They changed because they had to. Because the type of quarterback that was available to come into the league wasn't the Elvis Gerbach type. It wasn't the Peyton Manning type. The college just says, find me those guys in college right now on a Saturday. They don't exist. So then you had this next group that came in. They were a little more confident. Your Lamar Jackson, that era. You start to see some of their white counterparts, your Baker Mayfields, that were taking on this hip-hop culture. But they only didn't submit after extreme success. What's happened with this current batch is because of NIL, because of branding, because of their prominence, they're not submitting before they even do anything. And that would be my messaging, is that it's not about submitting, it's about playing the game. The hardest position in all of sports is quarterback. I don't care if you're black, white, Hispanic, Mexican, Indian. There's not a harder position to play. You can't be braggadocious and outspoken and rebellious before you have success, because there's no sustainability in that approach. And I know you're speaking about Shedeur, and I've been, outspoken about how I wish he would underpromise and overdeliver. And if you look at his arc, and I'm saying this not to attack Shedeur, I'm saying this for all the young quarterbacks coming up. He self-appointed himself legendary. Legendary means I don't need help. I don't need a group around me to help me be successful. You put me in your organization and we're going to win. To being a third-string quarterback during the year who did an interview and said, when I look around the league, I'm better than what I see, to now asking for patience and grace. So just to the guys coming behind him, it's not a right or wrong. It's a sustainability thing. You're going to need grace and patience in that league at that position. I don't care who you are. So to take the approach he did, I thought was short-sighted. I think he's learned a lot through his experiences, and I hope the guys coming behind him acknowledge that that's not the path I want to emulate. I'd rather be Cam Ward, humble, trying to do the right things, so I get some grace and I get some patience.
Shaun, I think, didn't you say your dad was a minister?
Yeah, I'm a preacher's kid.
Yeah. And so, the point, or one of the points of Christianity, is about submission. It is. Yeah. Submission and humility. That they're like peanut butter and jelly as it relates to Christianity. And so you're talking about athletes coming into the game. I don't want to submit and I don't want to be humble. And that's what's promoted in hip hop. Rebellion and arrogance. And it's a bad mix. When you have football, which is, again, the old school coaches from Tom Landry all the way to Tony Dungy, they used to lead with their faith, and they would build their leadership model based off a biblical worldview. And so they believe in submission. I go back, I ruined the first 2 years of my college football career and really my overall college football career because I was total rebellion. I locker room lawyer, and just had the wrong mentality. And so it's still true. The game has not changed where arrogance and a lack of submission leads to success. And anybody that demands or suggests, hey man, these black quarterbacks should lean into humility and submission, they'll have more success in the NFL. It almost sounds like I've told them, yeah, you need to bend over and be gay. And no, I'm like, no, man, that's not. I'm telling you to do what actually works: submission and humility.
I think the word submission sounds weak. Not that it is weak, but it's hard to tell a man to be submissive. Like he's not going to receive that. And sometimes it's not content is presentation. I'd rather say adapt. I'd rather say be nuanced enough to see what works from a longevity standpoint and what doesn't, and play the game. Like that's why I feel like a lot of young quarterbacks that look like me, because they haven't been, raised with fathers, they haven't seen it from the masculine side, from a teaching standpoint, on a consistent basis by somebody who truly loves them. Not just trying to use their ability and their talent to elevate themselves as well as the kid, but somebody that truly loves them like a dad, is willing to give them hard lessons and explain to them playing the game is not necessarily being submissive. It's adapting. It's understanding there's an end goal that I want to get to so that I can take care of not just my family, but generations of families, because the money's that big in the National Football League. Like Whitlock, if somebody came to you as a sophomore in college, you got to be out of high school 3 years, going to the draft, and said, listen, if you just play the process the right way, in 6 years, you'll have a contract that's over $200 million. Like, to me, that's a business plan. And I would be willing to sacrifice and submit, as you said, to anything to get to that landing mark, because I know now the power it gives me to then be able to be rebellious and do it my own way. So that would be my messaging.
So do you think in any way perhaps we've overvalued rebellion? It's like, why is being rebellious a goal?
I don't think it's a good thing, especially not in a team sport.
Maybe not even in life.
I think it's sometimes you have to rebel against those things that wish you not to succeed. Those things that maybe don't believe in what you're passionate about. Like there are times when, for your own self-preservation, you have to say, I've had people tell me during my process, before I got in the National Football League, you're not going to be an NFL quarterback. I had to rebel against that energy. I had people tell me, you're going to NFL, why are you going to graduate? I had to rebel against the energy. I want to graduate while I'm here, so I've got, so there are certain times where rebellion's good. Where it's not good is when it's detrimental to you elevating in whatever you're trying to accomplish.
I think we have demonized the word submission.
We have.
And it's not a dirty word in the Bible, and so it shouldn't be a dirty word among believers in the Bible. And I hear a lot of people claiming Christianity, but want nothing to do with submission. And so I just don't even understand how the word submission can be, and particularly for a man, like yourself, like your father, in a marriage. Like, because I've talked to enough ministers to know how tough it is to talk about submission in the church, particularly in a marriage. The women reject it. And men, masculine men, have joined the military, and they know that, man, I'm gonna have to do a lot of submission here to authority. And again, Do you know who Philip Anthony Mitchell is? Did you see
Mm-hmm.
the part where did you see the part where I played the Philip Anthony Mitchell clip?
No, I didn't see that.
Let's replay the Philip Anthony Mitchell. He did this in April. He gave a sermon in April about submission, biblical submission to authority. And this is at a predominantly black church. He's in Atlanta. No one's going to call Philip Anthony Mitchell a sellout. But he had to apologize almost instantly for this sermon because black Christians, they just don't believe in submission. But let's play the highlight of the clip.
Stop blaming white cops for the killing of black kids. Instead, teach your black children to be obedient towards authority. And I don't care if most of y'all are black. You need to teach your children to obey authority. We need to teach our sons and daughters to obey authority. We need to teach our children to not fight against authority, not fight against cops, not rebel. Be model citizens. Stop being rebellious towards authority. Be submitted to laws and ordinances. Watch. The Lord said, give back to Caesar what belongs to him. That is, be submitted to governmental authority. You know why you're looking at me like that? Because you don't read. And an Italian cop drove right by me, and I locked eyes with the cop, and we stared at each other, and he drove by. And in that moment, I hear the voice of my mom and my father. Son, obey authority. In that moment, with that Glock pressed to my head, I got to make a decision. Either my ego is going to be strong, God, or my submission to authority is going to be stronger than my ego.
I think he breaks it down. It's an ego issue. And he had to apologize. The black church movement objected so loudly that he issued an apology, and that sermon's been scrubbed from their website and page. That's why we had to show you a grainy version of it, is because, they had to flee it. This is the problem with black culture. We completely reject submission.
I understand the premise. I don't like the analogy he used. That analogy assumes that there is not any corruption in law enforcement. Like there aren't any morally bankrupt people that work for law enforcement. Like there are times when it's not about rebelling or being submissive. It's like you got to be a man. But overall, I have a lot of friends in law enforcement. I'm an advocate for law enforcement, but I would be remiss if I sat up here and acted like there is not a cancerous percentage of actual employees in law enforcement that make it bad for the rest of the group.
Do you play chess, Shaun?
Rarely. I'm more of a poker and dominoes player.
Okay, I like to play
chess.
But
I do know how to play chess.
Yeah, I like to. And so I just don't understand, as chess players, as just in life can be analogized to chess. I'm trying to figure out what chess move in terms of standing out in the street, pulled over on the side of the road, when is arguing with the police, when is that a winning move? Well, it's like bringing your queen out on the second move in a chess game. Your winning percentage is so low that you just don't do it.
And I'm not saying be confrontational, because you never win that battle. Right, wrong, and indifferent. Like that's a losing battle. You're going to end up down in the jailhouse. It's not going to go your way. But there are other methods to try and bring light where there's darkness.
Yeah, you submit and then you hire a lawyer and argue with them.
Absolutely. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, I'm not talking about being confrontational. You're going to lose that battle. Listen, if you're watching this and the popo pull you over, man, listen. However it's going to go, let the popo dictate how it's going to go. And then you find your recourse on the back end.
Oh, let me translate what Shaun just said. You get pulled over, submit to authority, and if you want to fuss and fight, do it after your submission to authority.
Right, but submit to authority means that that's a blank check that I'm writing. Play the game means that, okay, in this particular moment, I'm in a lose-lose. So I'm intelligent enough, I'm mature enough, I'm seasoned enough to play the game the right way so that I get the desired result at the end. To me, that's different than just blindly submitting that he's going to handle me any kind of way and I'm never going to call down to the branch and file a report. like, we got to be clear on when you say submissive. That seems like a period at the end of the statement when, the pastor was saying it, and the way you presented it, and maybe I'm interpreting it wrong, but I think there needs to be some nuance to the process. So as we get back to black quarterbacks, it's not about submitting to the white owner. It's not about submitting to the National Football League. It's about understanding how to work the process and play the game so you get the desired result. The initial result in life is financial freedom. Like, people can say whatever they want. In America right now, 2025, to be truly free, you need money. Now, you don't have to be private jet rich or guard gated community rich, but to exist and be free, where you can go and make your own choices and the outcomes you can live with, succeed or fail, you need some semblance of, financial stability. To get to that component, play the game, understand the process. And what I would really tell you, look at what quarterbacks are in the Hall of Fame and emulate those guys. Don't emulate a guy that can make a song that people love and then come back 10 years from now and make another song people love and be good forever. Like, if you're playing the game of football, go do some research. Go look at all the quarterbacks in the National Football League Hall of Fame. How were they wired? How did they present themselves? How did they handle themselves? Like, because ultimately, if you're in that league, I would hope that's your goal as a player, right? To have a gold jacket Hall of Fame career. So we addressed the problem. Hopefully I gave a solution on who to emulate and why.
And so I don't think you got to look at the whole Hall of Fame list. I would just suggest, if I were playing quarterback, I would study Tom Brady. And I'd say, let me try to do whatever Tom Brady did. And you know what Tom Brady did? He submitted to Bill Belichick for years and years and years. And after winning 6 Super Bowls, he wanted to be free. And Belichick wanted to give him his freedom. And Tom Brady took his act to Tampa and won a 7th Super Bowl. But we're not, like, Tom Brady is free to do that without repercussions. I could bring Tom Brady on this show and say, hey, you submitted to Bill Belichick. And he'd say, yes, I did. If you say that to a black quarterback, there's all this extra baggage that comes along with submission. And we have to remove that baggage. The Bible preaches submission, and we need to make it easier for people to submit rather than to make it more difficult because, for a black person, it's harder to submit.
We live in a world now. We live in a world now, Jay, where you gotta explain why. As a coach, as a single man looking for a wife, as a married man, like, you walk up to a woman and say, "I'm looking for a submissive woman," and you don't expound upon that, you probably gonna get that door shut 8 out of 10 times. If you go to a athlete and you just tell him, "Do it because I said do it," you probably gonna get that door shut 8 or 10 times. To your Tom analogy, I think that's what I'm saying. Tom didn't submit as much as he played the game. He thought he was better than Drew Bledsoe. He went to Coach Belichick and asked, why I'm not getting more reps. And Belichick told him, listen, this is how this works. Just make the most of the reps that you get. And he talked about this, how he knew he had 2 reps that day. And, man, look, he was out preparing for them 2 reps like it was an entire game. He played the process. And he got his shot through happenstance. Like, people forget this. If Drew Bledsoe just runs out of bounds in the game against the Jets, instead of trying to gain that extra yard and get knocked out by, I forget which linebacker from the Jets it was. But maybe Brady doesn't play that year.
Yeah.
So to my young quarterbacks coming into this league, Whitlock says be submissive. I say learn how to play the game. Because the game is bigger than your individuality. Trust me.
It was Mo Lewis that knocked out
Drew
Bledsoe.
Right. If Bledsoe just run out of bounds, Brady might not even play that year.
I just don't understand. If your father was listening to us right now, where would he land on, like, Jason saying submit and Shaun is like has a problem with that word. Your
Because
father would agree with me.
I'm slightly younger than you,
Yeah.
and you're slightly, well, you're not. You're younger than what my dad would be if he was still alive. So I am more connected to the reality of who this young generation is and how they're wired and how they receive information. And ultimately, as the mature male in the room, it's the outcome that I desire. If I've got to tweak my presentation so that it's more impactful, so that it resonates more, so that there's an actual seed that's planted that can get watered and help this young person reach their ultimate goal, then I'm willing to adapt the way I present it. Because I'm just telling you, like, these young people are not going to accept submit. And you're right in what you're saying. I'm not questioning what you're saying. I'm saying the presentation is not going to be received. It's just not. It's not the world we live in. Right, wrong, indifferent. The reality of 2025 in America is if you go up to somebody and tell them you got to submit, most Americans are going to rebel against that just because of the word.
And so, should we not also, if we buy your line of thinking, should we not also accept we're going to get substandard results? We're not going to get the same results as the people who are willing to submit, who are willing to admit that they're willing to submit, rather than the people you got to spend 3 months, 3 years, 3 hours explaining what the Bible explains to you and should be just taking it as fact.
If we keep it in the context of football, we're already seeing the manifestation of this new generation. Quarterback is awful right now in the league. It's awful.
Yes.
And
Yes.
a lot of it has to do with the fact that these quarterbacks are being coddled because they're viewed as a transportation apparatus to my success, which I don't want to get kicked off the bus. So I'm not going to tell the bus driver you're driving too fast. So you know what? We need to change the oil or you know, we need to make some remodeling so that when the bus gets to its destination, it's what people are looking for. These quarterbacks, man, they're not being coached. They're not. Nobody's telling them that, you know what, you got to get better in this area. You're not good enough in this area. And yet they're still making more and more money in the NIL. Look at the NIL market in college right now. The entirety of the quarterback market, Jason, is failed quarterbacks from this past season. They're about to go somewhere else because of what they were rated coming out of high school or because of 10 plays out of 250 that they had last year where they looked like they might have some ability. Because they've never, and now that we're not talking about the big picture, we're talking about the micro, they've never submitted to true coaching.
You're making
and
my
I'm talking
point.
about the development of a quarterback. You have to. But that's an individual situational thing. And I would go down the list still of explaining why you have to submit at this position. I have to create muscle memory so that when we get in the game, when chaos erupts, you're able to stay calm.
You're making my point. And we got bad play. These players won't submit to coaching. They're offended by almost any and everything. We're in this player empowerment era. It's Shaun, I want to play you this. I want to show you this. Give him the graphic of the top 9 teams in the league, everybody that's won 10 or more games to this point. And I just look at the first 8 coaches and the tiebreakers. If the records are the same, we go to point differential. And man, that looks like snowfall to me. That's milk check. There's a milk check going on. There's, we're in a winter wonderland.
Now, if you look at that in a vacuum, your point has teeth. But if we just expand slightly and include the last 2 years, Lamar has won 2 MVPs. Mahomes has been to 2 Super Bowls and won a Super Bowl. Jalen Hurts has been to 2 Super Bowls, won 1 Super Bowl MVP. Like C.J. Stroud, I think was Rookie of the Year. Jaden Daniels was Rookie of the Year last year. So if we expand it slightly, there's a huge influx of culture. But your point is also duly noted. Because what's now doesn't mean it's what's going to be.
let me also. I saw you and JB having a similar conversation that we had on this show. The only thing we did differently is this comparison from 2018 to 2025 is that we hyper focused in on the number of quarterbacks in 2018 who averaged more than 250 passing yards per game. If you played a minimum of 8 games, how many of them averaged more than 250 yards? And it's 19. 14 games into this season, in the 2025, there's 5 quarterbacks averaging 250 passing yards or more per game. The position has been degraded. The play has been degraded. And if you go and everybody in the last 3 NFL drafts, there have been 7 quarterbacks selected with a top 5 pick. In the first 5 picks, 7. 6 of them have been black. We have prioritized athleticism and this whole running thing, and it's not sustainable. And if you go, there's one white guy in that list, and it's Drake May, the guy having the most success out of all of these guys. It's this culture of rebellion, this of non-submission.
So if we can keep the graphic up,
let's
if we can keep the graphic up for a second, that's there. Let's personalize. By the way, before I start, JB's mad at you. He thinks you stole his topic and didn't give him credit. So I'm glad you said his name.
No. The topic didn't come from JB, but JB got it from the same place I did, off Twitter. Somebody else was comparing him to 4,000 and 5,000 yards. Anyway, go ahead. I know JB. Hold on. While you're there, JB is. I wrote a column in like 2009 about Rick Pitino and Pussy Galore, and JB's running around telling people he came up with it. I'm like, in 2009, JB, what JUCO were you coaching at? Were you popularized it? Anyway, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So here's what's interesting about this list: Bryce Stroud. Old school throwback representation of the quarterback position. Bryce Young, I mean.
Yeah.
Old school throwback. Everything you would want, I'm assuming your son, Whitlock, if he played quarterback to present himself, that's Bryce Young.
2-parent family. Yeah, awesome kid.
Absolutely. Actually playing really good now after a rough start. Panthers tied for the NFC South lead. C.J. Stroud, kind of the same demeanor, personality as Bryce Young. You know, straightforward. Yeah. Anthony Richardson completely overdrafted. Never should have been drafted. Never should have left college, and definitely never should have been a top 10 pick. Had been injured throughout college. Didn't have the experience, or the maturity to be ready to be a franchise quarterback. Caleb Williams. That's a whole nother conversation for a whole nother day. Jane Daniels. One of the few times where we've seen a matriarchal kind of upbringing produce a really quality, looks like
for
man's
1 year,
man.
Yes, he did. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she's done a great job with Jaden. Drake May, of course, we see who he is, and Cam Moore's team hasn't had a lot of success. Well, Whitlock, I tweeted out a highlight of Cam's top 20 throws. I put those throws up against anybody in the league playing the position. Like, his talent is that significant. He's got to find stability.
Footwork.
Yeah.
He throws falling away way too often.
Yeah, a lot of them do now because they were raised by Aaron Rodgers and Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen. So you got to think, these are the quarterbacks these guys are emulating growing up. So they're taking on their habits. They didn't grow up watching Drew Bledsoe take a fundamentally sound drop and Warren Moon. They didn't grow up watching those guys. They couldn't tell you a play from those guys' careers. So you emulate what you see. So a lot of this new batch mimics the bad fundamentals of the top 3 guys from the last couple of years.
Good point. Shaun, I appreciate the conversation. Tell JB, and I'll tell JB tomorrow when he's on here taking credit for other stuff that I've said and done. Uh, we did not steal the idea from him. I did see it last night or this morning, and I talked to Hadley about it, and that's the other reason why I was like, oh man, Shaun King's the perfect guy for this conversation. They already warmed up for it, and just being a black, your parents were married throughout your career. Yeah. See, and I'm just we got this baby
Mom
mama.
is never. My dad died in 11. Mom is never remarried. Like I come from one of them strong. I come from good stock.
Yeah, and I'm sure they would agree with me about submission and the whole nine. So you're not just disagreeing with me; you're disagreeing with your mom and dad.
And you know, let's delve real quickly into something. Why would a pastor retract something that's the truth? See, this is what see Christianity, religion is so focused on the monetization component that they're afraid to be truthful about what the words say. Right? If you're preaching that this is the good book, then why would you retract something that's obviously you can find context and clarification for in the good book?
Because the culture has that much power and influence to bully people off the truth. And I wouldn't have backed up off of it, but you know.
Well, real Christianity not impacted by cultural, coming and going. Like, so maybe the question or the point of emphasis needs to be the pastoralship and the leadership within the pastoralship in America. And is it focused on the greater good? Is it focused on the development of the congregation? Or is it just focused on trying to monetize the position? Because I didn't grow up around a pastor that would apologize. And he was blood raw on everything, from sexuality to everything. Like he didn't cut no corners. And he wasn't going to say sorry because he was going to go back to the good book and tell you the origin of his opinion. So maybe there's a lack of leadership in the pastoralship going on in America. I'm just asking.
Oh, no, you're factually strong there. Factually strong there. All right, Shaun, we got to go. Thank you so much. Brother. Awesome job. Appreciate the conversation. I got to ask you all in the chat. I think Shaun agrees with me. I think he found a clever way to say what I've said a different way, and a way that won't cause conflict and pushback. But I think he agrees with me. We'll run this by JB some tomorrow. That's it, and that's all for us today. We'll see you tomorrow.